This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. Today is Thursday, July 10th, and the NBDA, we are extremely grateful to our panel members and to those who are in attendance today for our quarterly meeting, which unites the bicycle industry, retailers, and attendees, consumers at large, in an important conversation about growing ridership and retailer foot traffic. This growing ridership and retailer foot traffic best practices panel was established earlier this year as an advocacy effort by the NBDA to take immediate action to develop strategies that increase bicycle riding participation. It's an effort that we all need to get behind. The data and statistics are showing that while people are choosing the bike, they're choosing the bike maybe for one day a month, one day a year, instead of something that they choose 5 days a month, 5 days a week. And we really need to, as an industry, focus on getting more people to choose the bicycle to come into our sport. This quarterly platform serves as an opportunity for experts and retailers to come together and share proactive ideas, ask questions, and the intent is to develop solutions to grow ridership and renew interest in cycling and getting more diversity in cycling and improving the rider experience, enhancing infrastructure, and just strengthening the engagement so we continue to bring more riders in and day out into our sport. The NBDA, we could not do this without our panel members. Our panel members today, those that you see on the call, they have volunteered their time and expertise into the discussion. And a lot of energy has gone into this platform behind the scenes to make this something that's extremely valuable. The NBDA, we truly believe that working united, that this collective conversation will lead us somewhere, and we appreciate your attendance today. If you're joining and viewing as a participant, we want your participation. So throughout the day today, you can go ahead and place any questions you have into the chat. You can use the Q&A function, and the NBDA and our panel members, we're going to monitor your feedback, your questions, and we're going to answer some of those live, and some we'll just type back in the chat. So let's just kick off today's event with some words for the good, a reminder of why we're here, why we're working in partnership. Today, we're gathering with a shared mission. We want to grow ridership across our industry. And we want to do so because we're facing tremendous opportunities and real challenges. As consumer habits are evolving and new technologies are emerging, it's bringing us to a path where bringing more people into our sport, it kind of requires some fresh thinking and collaborative action. And that's why we're here. We want this to be a resource and a catalyst for ideas. And so over the next hour, you're going to hear diverse perspectives. You're going to hear some new innovative approaches and creative solutions. And some of these ideas might challenge your way of thinking, and some might seem unconventional. But I encourage you to approach today's discussions with an open mind and non-judgmental hearts. We truly hope that this will just get us all thinking, and hopefully we can come together. So listen actively, engage throughout today's event, and put those questions into chat. The NBDA believes in partnerships. We believe in partnerships with retailers, industry leaders, other nonprofits, and advocacy groups. We're doing everything we can do. And I know there's more we can do, but everything we can do daily to create strategies that not only grow ridership, but strengthen the entire cycling ecosystem. So let's make the next hour and a half count and come in with open minds, open hearts, and an opportunity to learn. So with that, we have a special presentation to kick us off today. My good friend James Moore, owner of Moore's Bicycle Shop in Mississippi, past NBDA president, is going to talk about bikes, recovery, and opportunity, and what he's been seeing in his local community, what his efforts have done, and how we might do things similar across the nation. James, thanks for being here.
Thanks. In 2015, we lost our son Jeffrey to a heroin fentanyl overdose after watching him struggle for a decade with a disease that started in junior high. Following his death, I began to find ways to work with the local recovery centers in our area. And I've always believed in the power of the bicycle to transform lives and the power of the bicycle to help us deal with emotional and mental issues from my own personal enjoyment as an adolescent growing up into adulthood. I've sold bikes over the last 40 years to people who's had their lives transformed not in a physical way, but in the mental and emotional way that they needed. I see these on our local bike path every time I go out. And when I bring groups out with me, I remind them these people that are out here every day aren't going to race. They're not looking for a triathlon. They're keeping everything above their shoulders in check by doing that. I wanted to offer this benefit to people who were in local recovery centers as part of their therapy. And it took a while to gain the trust of the two facilities and to find an insurance company that would cover it. But I'm in the 6th year now of hosting twice weekly bicycle group rides on our Longleaf Trace local rail trail. I take groups out anywhere from 5 to 20 at a time. We go out in the mornings. We do about a 3.5 hour ride. I SAG the group with a golf cart capable of carrying 4 or 5 bikes and a few riders if they need it. Often it's the youngest one to get off the bike because it came out of detox 2 days ago and just can't quite do it yet. But I have anywhere 18 years up to 70 years old on these rides. We have covered enough miles collectively since I started this 6 years ago that we're on our 3rd trip around the globe. That includes cycling across the water masses, not just the land masses. I've had so many people that come back to me after they are discharged from the facility. Some come directly to me when their family comes into town to pick them up, to buy a bike, to buy all the gear, because they're committed that this is going to be a part of their long-term recovery. I have others that come back a year, several years afterwards. I'll be out in the parking lot checking in a bike, and they simply pull up and get out, and they want to tell me who they are, what the ride's meant to them, how long their recovery has been now, and just thank me for the role that I've played in that. I have people stop me in the store. They want to introduce me to their family, their kids, years after they were a participant in the recovery ride program, just to let me know that it played a pivotal role in their success. We have a program where we offer used bikes at no charge to the people who are completing these programs if they come to us with a letter from their counselor confirming that they have no other transportation. These bikes cost a little. The community knows we do this, so they're always leaving bikes for us to put into that program. I also have an arrangement with local drug court where if a client is in drug court, they come to us with a letter from the judge. We give them a bike, lights, a lock, and a helmet also. This way they have a way to search for work, go to work, and to attend the meetings that are required. As far as a business aspect, this has been incredibly good for the business. Just the appreciation that the community shows our business for us having this leadership role in the lives of people has been incredible. I don't know how you put a number on that, but it's been successful to us in our general business financial health as well. The reason that I asked Heather to give me a little time to speak today, if I remember correctly, and Jay can correct me, I think we have about a $6 billion industry. Is that somewhere close to being correct? The United States has just received a $55 billion opioid settlement. That's money that has been taken from the pharmacies, from the drug manufacturers, the distributors of opioids, to help offset the harm created by the epidemic that they've created and that they've fueled for the last 20 years. Every state in the country has an amount that they have received and will continue to receive over the next few years. And every state has allocated every city and every county in their state a portion of that they have complete discretion over how they spend. I quickly checked with our local city to be sure that I had a voice in how that money was spent. And one thing led to another, and in sort of a Forrest Gump set of circumstances, I got a call from a Speaker of the House in our state legislature asking if I would serve on the State Opioid Settlement Council. And I jumped at that chance. We had our first meeting in Jackson yesterday. We have a council advisory board of 35 members from all walks of government and mental health, physical health. 12 of those are the ones that will actually be voting to determine how the $370 million will be invested in Mississippi. And in a Forrest Gump set of circumstances, I have found myself as one of the 12 that will be making that decision. There is huge potential in your area, no matter where you're from. If you choose to approach people in this lifestyle, in this part of their transition of life back to recovery, and introduce them to cycling as an effective tool to get there. Recently, this caught the attention of a university professor locally. I went and spoke to his recreational therapy group, as I often do. And he is in the process now of doing a research project on this ride program that we do. One component of that is at the end of each ride, the riders come in, we'll go into our conference room at the shop here, and I ask them a series of questions, which I record their responses about the rides, what it means to them, what it does for them. And I thought that I knew a lot about how this impacted people, but until I began having them say that out loud and record that, it's just a life-changing, powerful endeavor. I make myself available to anyone out there that would like to explore something like this in your community, whether it's on a low level of simply providing bikes to people in the drug courts or being discharged from the facilities, or if you would like to get into a program doing what I do, it is the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my 40 years of business. And I think that there were some obstacles that I had to overcome. For the bike ride program, I had to get the trust of the facilities. That wasn't difficult to do since I'm a guest speaker regularly there. My own insurance company wouldn't cover these rides for some reason, although they cover other group rides. And the reason was, well, these aren't your regular customers, so they're more likely to sue you than your regular customer. And I said, you have no idea the relationship I have with these folks. They would be the last to sue. But I found a company that does special events, which is very affordable. I provide the bikes, I provide the snacks. And for one facility where it's low income only, these people are there by grants. They have no money when they go in, nothing when they come out. Every rider on their first ride gets a Moore's Bike Shop t-shirt. And it's really incredible to be walking around town and see someone wearing that shirt, knowing where it came from. And it's incredibly touching to hear people say, I was at the AA meeting last night and half the folks there were wearing your shirts. So, well, I like to think I've got your back, but I look at giving them a shirt as giving them a positive trigger, because they're going to have plenty of other triggers that will catch them unaware in the coming weeks and months after their discharge. So I provided the bikes. I have a golf cart that I've modified to load the bike on, put the rider on the cart. It takes about 30 seconds to go from riding to being on the cart. And most of them, as soon as they rest up, they want back on the bike again to finish the ride. And you need to obviously to find in your area, if you choose to do this, a safe and enjoyable route. And we're fortunate that we have a direct connection to the Longleaf Trace. I'll stop with just one scenario. Years ago, there was a young man named Sam that showed up on the ride. He was from the lower income facility in town. He was there on a grant. Opioid was his addiction. He was a little heavy. He showed up on a summer ride with long jeans and work boots with steel toes, and he just about killed himself trying to do 12 miles. He was at the back. We waited every intersection for everyone to catch up, and he made it all the way back, and he didn't say a word on the whole ride. Then he came on the next ride and the next and the next, and every client shows great improvement just from one ride to the next. I went to speak at that facility about 3 months after his initial ride. And after he came up and said, remember me? I said, yeah, Sam, good to see you. He said, I was supposed to discharge last week, but I got him to let me stay in one more week so I could catch one more ride. He says, what you don't know is that on that first ride I woke up that morning, I'd just been here a few days, and I told him, I said, I'm going to get kicked out today or I'm leaving AMA. This ain't for me. And the counselor said, just do the bike ride and then decide. He said, I've been here for 90 days now, and it's the bike ride that helped get me through this and will carry me forward. So welcome any questions you may have, and I'll put my direct cell number in the comments also if anyone wants to reach out later and just kind of ask what it takes to make this happen. $55 billion is up for grabs. And based on my meeting in Jackson yesterday, everyone's going to come in with the greatest idea since sliced bread to help those in recovery. This I know works. Thank you.
Excellent, James. Such fantastic work, and we're really thankful for you to share it with the community. Retailers listening, there is that link to the settlement tracker in the chat that was provided to us, and James will put his information in the chat as well. If you have direct questions on how you could start something similar, we're talking about growing ridership, and this is one way that we can definitely do that and help improve people's lives. Is there any questions from the panel members or from our attendees that we have at this time for James? I think there's just a lot of love coming in the chat, James and Alana, just appreciation for the work you've done. And I do hope that others listening today can consider how we might be able to do something in our space, in our community, and help people through the bicycle. It's such a powerful tool. All right, if I don't see any other questions coming in at this time, then I'm going to move us through the agenda for today. So how these meetings progress each quarter is Megan Schmidt, who's the NBDA Programs Director, reaches out to our community, the NBDA members, and about 3 weeks prior to the event, and asks for topics that they like the Growing Ridership panel to talk about. Through that process, we have a bunch of topics that come in, and then we have a selection process. So we have 3 topics today that have been submitted to us from our membership, from our community. And how today will progress is I'll read each topic. We'll go one by one, and then several of our panel members will share their opinion, their viewpoint, uninterrupted. So we have a chance to listen to what they say, digest their ideas and thoughts, and then following we'll have a nice group discussion and answer any questions from our attendees. So it is interactive. It's a great way that we can hear other viewpoints and just broaden our thought process. So the first topic on today's agenda is the future of cycling in America. And it is titled Expanding Ridership Through the Sub $1,000 MSRP and Used Bike Markets. So talking about expanding ridership through this sub $1,000 MSRP and also the used bike markets. So ridership in the US is currently at 2% of the population. And by defining a goal of increasing participation to, let's say, 5% by 2050, how can we identify strategies to move bikes based on volume? So if we shift our focus from high-end, let's say $10,000 bikes to the sub $1,000 price point and used bike market, will that help us to grow everyday ridership and meet that goal of 5% national ridership by 2050? It's an awesome way to think about, what we're doing here. If having these MSRPs lower, this used bike opportunity will help us reach more riders. So looking forward to this conversation. I would just like to start us off with Robert Bagnell of Maverick Bikes, who will present his thoughts first. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks. Everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And good morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world to everybody. I want to start by saying bikes are not my income. They're my passion. So my bike shop is run separately from my home income. I had a wild dream to make a charity bike shop that made cycling more accessible to everyone and more accepted in the US. So in 2019, I bought a failed bike shop and made that dream a reality. What has always bothered me about this industry is what we were just talking about, the focus on the high-end $10,000 bike segment of the market, which of course brings in profitability, but at what cost? We have 2% ridership in the US, as you mentioned. The future of cycling isn't me. It isn't the 2%. It's not the older riders with too much money and not enough common sense not to own 30 plus bikes on our own. But the industry sees us still as its financial future, and that is kind of sad. When COVID hit for a while, it looked hopeful. More people than ever were buying bikes because it was the only way to recreate, safely outside. I thought we had a chance of coming out of this as an industry better, where we focused on the 98%, truly aimed at growing cycling in America. But the second people went back to their lives, the industry went back to its comfort zone, right? The old market. And even COVID couldn't break that habit. And that was, in my opinion, just dumb. We blew an opportunity. The vast majority of folks, the 98%, simply cannot afford or don't wish to spend $2,500 to $10,000 on a bike. They have to afford food, gas, daycare, utilities, rent, and now you want them to pay $4,000 per adult for a bicycle. And kids' bikes are just as bad, $300 to $500, and they're going to outgrow it in a year, and they got to do that all over again. The industry hasn't valued them because they sell them a bike, and often one that is more than they need, and then they bail on them. In most cases, and the local shop is left to try and figure out how to keep them going and whatnot when they have all the competition of, tablets and cars and life. So for the 98%, the carbon fiber, the 12-speed group sets, the few grams saved isn't really important. We need to be growing the future of cycling in the country, and we can't wait for the industry to lead that change. We at the shop level have to do it. If we could go from 2 to just 5%, just 5, imagine what it would do to this industry. It would explode, right? It's 300% growth, and we would be able to service more riders, have more shops that are solvent and comfortable, because we've got a greater market of folks who are using the bicycles daily. I'm not going to go over all the ways I think the industry has failed us, but let's talk about what we can do to get to the 5%. What we're doing currently, or have done for the last 5.5 years, we started as a charity that happens to run a bike shop. And that's an important difference. We're two pieces. There's a charity and a bike shop. It's not the other way around, because this isn't my retirement plan or my income. And so the whole thing is focused on getting bikes into the hands of more people who are new riders, returning riders, that kind of thing. So I took the profit motive out of it for me, and that helped me make the right decisions, I feel, for the shop. We take donations in our charity. To date, we have donated more than 3,000 bikes back into either the local community or a regional area, and more than 1,000 overseas with our partnership for Bikes for the World. And that is fantastic. We've been really excited about that and what it's done for the community, local school systems, et cetera. We have a heavy focus on the used bike market, with prices for everything in life being more expensive. And the glut of used bikes on the market after COVID, it was a unique opportunity. It still is, I think, for focusing on used bikes, getting more of the folks who won't spend the $2,500 on a bike first to recreate, and then for more, right? Errands, commuting, et cetera. And our partnerships make that possible, which is fantastic. It's taken us a long time to build that up and a lot of work. We are implementing a trade-up program specifically for parents. So you come in, you get a bike from us, new or used, and we can do a pay-as-you-go program for a chunk of that bike. And then at the end of the year, or the beginning of the next, when your child has outgrown that parent gets a loyalty result from us, where they get money when they trade that bike back in, and we give it to another child who can use it, and they get another bike for their child as that child grows. This does a couple of things. It not only helps with making it more affordable and getting more people to ride bikes more regularly for parents, so their kids aren't aging out of a bike and they can't afford to buy more because they have 2 or 3 kids. It also keeps those kids riding into adulthood, which is huge, because we have to grow that next generation. It's massively important, I think, and we won't survive without it. We're big on recycling, not just used bikes and parts, which of course we're doing through the used program, but also we did programs like we got with our local dump. I used to get so frustrated going in there, pulling out bikes that are perfectly good. You wouldn't believe how many in my area are perfectly good bikes. And we help them institute a program where there's a drop-off pickup. So if you have bikes you're no longer using, you take them to a special section of the dump, you put them there, they're serviceable. Somebody goes and says, I need a bike, and they got one. It's fantastic. We just launched it with them this year. I'm very excited. It took me 3 years of hounding everybody in the county to get that done. But it's making a difference, right? And that keeps kids from, or adults from just sitting around waiting for their turn 16, get their license, et cetera. But it also, allows us to do other things. We also have a reuse program for helmets. So places like Barbados have a compulsory helmet law, and they don't mind used helmets as long as they're not crashed. So helmets are one of the hardest things for us to recycle in this industry, but if you put it on somebody else's head and keep them safe, not so bad. And we've managed to ship tons and tons of those through Bikes for the World as well, out to our folks overseas, and get folks protected and riding more. Very, very exciting, for us to do that kind of stuff. We're constantly looking at new vendors who offer good quality, affordable bikes, not just the big box guys, to meet the budget of the 98%, but they have to be decent quality bikes, obviously. We engage locally with non-cycling businesses through partnerships. So, with local restaurants, hey, you get a coupon, you get service here, you get some money off of the restaurant, vice versa. Coffee, wine and beer events for stages of the Tour de France or other major cycling events, getting folks in, just saying, hey, come on, do rides, Christmas lights rides, Halloween lights rides, that kind of stuff, to keep them engaged beyond, here's a bike, have fun, see you when you need service, right? And that's super important. I think this is just some of what we're doing, and I wanted to pass that along. I'm going to talk about the industry next, but we believe it's changing the perspective of people from cycling as recreation to cycling culture. Right? I use my bike for all kinds of stuff. I do a podcast that allows folks to get that knowledge too. Hey, I'm going to test this kind of thinking, I'm going to use my bike for errands. I converted this trailer into a buggy for towing stuff once my kids outgrew it, right? So I can go to the grocery store or Home Depot. Just getting folks involved in those kind of things to help them understand the bike is more than just recreation. It has to become part of the lifestyle if we're going to succeed as an industry. What the industry can do, I'm hoping, not with a lot of hope, but I'm hopeful, increase partnerships with local shops. I know how many of us feel abandoned, particularly as they go online and sell bikes. They kind of push us to the side and they're like, yeah, whatever. That engagement needs to happen again for the whole industry. We're the people on the ground, with the grassroots, who can help folks and help the industry guide the whole selling of bikes and marketing of bikes forward. Recommend local groups, rides, and events for the regions you're in. Everybody has social media, and shops can do this too. Obviously, we do it. Push that information out, right? What are the local routes? What are the best and safest ways to get places? What are outages? Hey, we're doing construction on this trail, blah blah blah. That helps folks understand and stay, riding locally. And some folks just won't ride on the road a lot. Around here, it's not terribly safe in Northern Virginia in a lot of places. So, they want to stay on the trail. Okay, is the trail closed? Keeping them up on those kind of things, super important. Stop making Asia a single point of failure, right? I mean, we learned that in spades after or during COVID, and hopefully we're going to see more things move outside of that single point of failure so we can still get parts and exchanges. But those are things we can't do at the shop level, right? This is, I think, nothing short than a battle for the soul and survival of this industry in America. We already have enough competition from cars as it is in people's other lives. If we are smart and focused and we do it from the shop level, I believe we can change both the short and long-term thinking of folks riding bikes and the amount of people riding bikes, which then, of course, helps us all with service, and community, et cetera. My greatest moment in this industry is not selling a high-end bike when it leaves my shop, watching it go. It is the many times already, because of our used and donation program, that we have had a free bike go to that single mom whose car blew up yesterday. And now her only way to feed her children and pay her rent is the bicycle we just gave her for free. And it's an emotional moment for me. So I encourage everybody to do that in your local community, even if it's just a little. Get folks who are not regular riders more involved. Day laborers, folks in need, low-income folks. There are tons of used bikes out there. You get folks on them. You can take donations. Make sure they're serviceable through your shop. Get them under people who need them. And the people who donate them, the other interesting thing I'll close with is that they love to see that their bike's going somewhere. It's not just ending up on a landfill. It's not just ending up on, Facebook Marketplace and who knows where. Someone's utilizing that who possibly couldn't afford to be on a bike yesterday, or, is getting it through a program we're offering. So that's the whole soul of what we do at Maverick Bikes, and why I'm so excited about it. I think the future of the industry, that 98% is our future, period. We can't live on 2%. That's just, it's not sustainable. So that's it. I'll take any questions anybody has, or we can move on.
Robert, thanks so much. I absolutely love when our retailer community members come forward and share what you're doing in your local shop. And I've been watching Maverick Bikes and what you're doing, and it's just really, thank you. I applaud your efforts and all you've done, and for sharing it, for coming on this platform and sharing too, which I know can be a little bit somewhat intimidating sometimes. So thank you. We have two more speakers, and then we'll open it up to some questions. And I see that we do have the link to Maverick Bikes website in the chat as well. And I would suggest anyone who's attending to check it out. Our next speaker on this topic is Peter Woolery from Bicycle Market Research. Peter, so great to have you here.
Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know, I worked for 20 years in bicycle retail and have pivoted to doing market research. And so I'm going to share a presentation that I did at Cabda West. Hopefully that's going through just fine. And part of my market research is on the used bike segment to try and understand what's happening, because there's a lot of opacity. There's successful businesses like Maverick Bikes and like Moore's Bike Shop that have been doing used bikes, but there's really been no data on it. And so I want to bring some data to the conversation. The first slide here is trying to say, why should bike shops care? Well, when we talk about used, a lot of it is really about your local community. And sure, there are trade-ins, right? You have Trek selling trade-ins through their website. You have Bicycle Blue Book and these other ones. but they're competing on very specific segments. When you talk about the work that Maverick's doing, you can see that it's extremely local. And that's something that you as a retailer can control and can contribute to as well. The other aspect that I'm going to show you a chart on in just a little bit, and that has been touched on, is how consumers are being priced out. As good quality bikes are costing more due to tariffs and input costs and so on and so forth, that's just making it so the consumer has the choice of either just a very low end mass market bike or none at all, or trying to figure out how they can afford to increase it all the way up to the costs that we're seeing. Kids bikes are a great example where it's 3, 4, sometimes $500 now. And then finally, you as a retailer get to control your margins based on how you're buying. Now, you need to be good at it and you need to get experience. And we'll talk about that a little bit later with some of the point of sale data that I'm seeing as well. But those that do it well can have significantly improved margins. So you can improve the health of your business while also supporting your local community. So we talk about buying local and how it fits your market, right? You choose the right bikes for your segment. Make sure that you have, if you're a mountain bike shop, you're choosing mountain bikes, but you're also choosing the ones that support your community. You're not going just straight for that $10,000 bike. You're trying to capture, a larger portion of that 98% of consumers as well. Likewise, as mentioned in those types of trade-up programs, you can help to retain your customers as they move from one bike to another. Because each time they have to spend that $400 on a kid's bike is another painful experience for them to potentially not buy a bike. And then the kid maybe outgrows it and just stops riding, and they sort of drift out. One of the participation data points that we've seen over the years is a drop-off in participation as youth age, as they get into teenage years and so on and so forth. We'd expect some of that just based on being a teenager, but part of that is because of how frequently they're having to buy these bikes as well. And then finally is having those right local partners, right? Whether that's Red Barn Refresh from Trek, or whether that's Bicycle Blue Book or other trade-in partners, to be able to move through bikes that don't fit your market, right? You can combine and choose the right combination. So this is the chart that I really wanted to talk about. And over the past rough decade, we've seen an increase in the average selling price of bikes pretty consistently. It's come down a bit after COVID, primarily due to discounting. But if you look at the kind of the baseline case, it's continued to go up. And in 25, we're seeing that go up even more with these threats of tariffs. It's likely going to go up more in 26 as well. When specifically that happens, we'll have to wait and see. But at the same time, we're seeing in the Circana data, the point of sale data, is total units sold are going down. And that's a pretty classical economics challenge there. Well, it's kind of a straightforward solution as well, is trying to identify those gaps in the market where we can lower prices. One great opportunity, as has been touched on, is in the youth bike segment, right? If you look here, and this is actual data from my research and from some published Circana data as well, you can see a pretty significant gap. The used and mass market are down here at $100 on average for youth bikes. Direct to consumer, surprisingly, is right on pace with IBDs. And the main reason there is it just costs a lot of money to ship kids' bikes. And so it's not really viable to compete at the low end for direct consumer. Well, there's a pretty clear gap there of an opportunity for us to fill. And so what we can do is we can look at the used bike market to fill that in. One awesome thing for a retailer is that it's pretty cheap and easy for you to refurbish a kid's bike as well. You can get pretty high turn rates out of them. And we're starting to see that in some of the retail data. Some of the early data that I'm finding is that you see used kids' bikes fill this gap very nicely and at very healthy margins. So as we're seeing new bike margins decline slowly, they get compressed by all these headwinds that the total industry is experiencing. You get to control what you're purchasing these bikes for. Right now is a pretty good opportunity as well. In my used bike research, I've seen average pricing decline substantially through 24, but in 25, it's stabilizing a bit more. And again, it's local. So when you're buying these bikes from, say, your existing retailers, there's a great opportunity for you to just choose the price that you're purchasing it at. And most of them aren't going to do a ton of research. They're just going to rely on the trust that you established with them previously. There's also some great resources from the NBDA. Moore's Bike Shop has contributed tremendously to that as well. So if you're getting into the used market, definitely look at those resources to help you find the right way of approaching it and not get burned in this process. This slide I inserted at the last second here. This is from some early point of sale data. I'm working on a new project to aggregate data from point of sale from different retailers across the country in order to better understand what's happening here. So on the left-hand side, you can see total unit sales by price band, and these are of used bikes at retail. So clearly, the majority of those unit sales are at that low end. In those price bands, that would benefit these particular 98%, right? The kids' bikes to fill that gap, as well as adult bikes. And on the right-hand side, you can see this graph of the gross margins by your price band. So it certainly is much healthier at these lower price bands. So not only are we filling a gap in the market that has been missing, but we also have a great opportunity to make healthy margins. You'll see a lot of spikiness here, and there's some variability in terms of how well different retailers do at buying. That's a very important one. And then also you'll see this dramatically declining margin toward the higher end, and that's really skewed by demo bikes and poor high-end purchases. Make sure if you're getting to used bikes and you want to compete in the higher end, you're very sophisticated and really know what you're doing there. There's a lot more risk, whereas in the low end, in that 98%, there's lower risk, there's larger numbers of people, better turns, it's much more local, less competition. So great opportunities there. So again, use the NBDA as a great resource. We put a lot of effort into it. I contributed a little, but to be honest, Moore's did a lot of the heavy lifting. I think I did more formatting than actual contributions to it. So a lot of great work from the NBDA and the community members to help support this.
Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation and all you have done for the NBDA and our retailer members at all the cabinet shows and the summit shows. Always a pleasure to work with you and what you're doing for the industry with market data. We'll now open this up to any conversation from our panel members, questions for Robert or for Peter, or any questions from our attendees. Yeah, James.
Up to 75% margins. That's our average margin on a used bike.
Yeah, and we are seeing from our P2 program, our profitability project, the retailers that are focused on selling used bikes have a higher gross margin overall and are definitely focused on growing that category as they're seeing some big revenue wins there and getting more people on bikes with the lower price point bike and a really nice bike that's been refurbished. Any other questions or comments?
To James's point, those shops that have a longer legacy of doing used bikes definitely do a better job of being systematic about their purchasing to push up their own margins. And that goes back to that control of margins. It tends to be that those that do it more of a knee-jerk thing of, hey, let's go into it, that there's some pain points there of buying too high. But when you go into it systematic and methodical about how you're approaching it, then you can really control and boost those margins for your business.
Yeah, Jeff, I see your hand up. Jeff from Cycles Site, nice to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Sorry, I was fumbling with the unmute button. I know that the automobile industry has this very high ratio of used to new car sales. I can't quote it. I don't remember what it is, but I think the success of this could be measured by, and it would have to be in units, obviously, by the number of used bikes getting sold compared to new. And I don't know if anybody knows what that ratio is now and what the success would be in the out years. So if it if it doubles in 5 or 10 years, I think you're going to see a big success in bike store traffic.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
On the automotive side, in 2022, it was 71% of automobiles sold, consumer automobiles, were used. And in 2024, my research showed that the online used bike market accounted for roughly 5% of total unit sales of bicycles based on the available data. Now, I think that as we pull in more point of sale data, we'll see that move up, but it's probably still somewhere in that 5 to 10% range. So where success is,
Yeah.
it's certainly more than that.
Presents a big opportunity.
Yeah, and they have a much larger percentage of people to buy from, or to buy from them, right? Whereas we have 2%. So, we have to grow those people. That will not only help the used market and explode it and reduce the amount of bikes available, but also help the industry, because they'll have to make new bikes because there's just more people buying. All right. And it's just part of what happens, hopefully, if we can drive this.
Keep it moving forward. Excellent. Well, I love that topic. And again, we have just a limited time in these quarterly meetings to talk about each topic, but digest what you've heard, think about what you could do with the topic and in your own community, in your own retail store, or with your brand, or with your other nonprofit, and let's move that forward. I think there is opportunity here to grow ridership in this topic. Let's move to topic 2 for today. This one is building inclusive cycling communities and how retailers nationwide can expand our reach. So just as Robert said, we just have that 2%. How can we get more people to the sport? So we'll explore what strategies and community-driven approaches have helped to increase inclusivity in cycling, and how retailers and cities with less established communities can use these lessons to foster growth and diversity in their own markets. This is a topic I think we've even talked about before, but such an important topic that we'll keep it coming forward. I'd like to welcome AM from Revolution's Per Bike Fit Studio in Brooklyn to present her thoughts on this topic. AM, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share some slides. To Robert's point from earlier, I think New York is a case where the COVID expansion in cycling really stuck. So I'm going to be kind of talking through what I think we do really well here. And my goal today was just to bring out a lot of ideas. And I'm always happy to chat if you want to get deeper into anything. But all right, so I got into bike fitting from just being an active member of our local community. So I still very much am. So I'm coming from very lived experiences with a lot of these things we're talking about. Obviously, I'm fairly young. I'm in my early 30s, and I'm non-binary, but I'm working in a community that's so diverse, so inclusive. We have a lot of women cyclists. We have a lot of people across the age range. So I come into the industry, and I think it's really interesting to bring my perspective as kind of the next generation. How can I share what I know so that we can all move together in the direction we'd like? And I came up with this framework of riding literacy. I first presented this at Philly Bike Expo in 2024. I view this as the way of kind of bridging this gap. If we know that cycling, as I'll go through here, is a sport of, on the left side, of significant gear, of technical knowledge, of in-grouping and out-grouping due to cycling discipline or riding choices, of willingness to take on risk, and of few formal pathways to become a better rider. That gives us context to understand what are some of the barriers that a lot of these people we would like to develop as cyclists face. Like in James's example of, if you've never been on a bike and you don't know how to get a bike and you don't have money for a bike and you don't know where to ride, those are a lot of barriers. But if someone provides all of that to you, it is very easy to improve as a cyclist. All right, so to go through basically this framework in tangible examples of what's happening in my community in New York and what are we doing well, I'm just going to go around the circle here. So the first one being belonging. I think we can all agree that cycling as a sport struggles with belonging for a lot of people. It's still, I don't, maybe Peter or someone else knows the data points now. The last time I had a number, it was like 70% male, which is pretty bad when you look at like marathons, which are 50%, or like roughly 50%. So I'm always thinking about where does that come for people? And it's also a very white sport. Like people have mentioned socioeconomic barriers as well. In New York, it's amazing. We have all of these different cycling groups across like every identity category. There's cycling groups that are women specific, queer specific, people of color specific. We have people riding only exclusively fixed gear bikes. We have like a large population of people riding used bikes. And then we also have people riding really high-end road bikes and again, inside of pace, we have people riding 28-mile plus fast laps of the park. We have people riding 8 mile per hour, learn how to ride in a social group. We have people riding all over the city. We have groups that are meant to like build skills and groups that are meant to like push skills. We have a strong racing community out here. And then the last one I put is minimum expected gear. In that there's quite a few group rides that you can show up to on a city bike and you wouldn't be laughed at. That would be perfectly acceptable. I think New York, the fact that we have a city bike program introduces a lot of people to city biking, and the fact that you can have a pathway to join to become a true cyclist as a city biker by being included in the community is not an insignificant way we get more participation. Routing knowledge, again, like James mentioned, or everyone here has mentioned, you don't know where it's safe to get on a bike and go ride. In New York City, I've been here about 10 years, and in the last 10 years, we've had so much development of bike lane, protected bike lanes, so much increase in commuter traffic where a lot of people feel safe. They go out, there's a green lane to ride on, and they see a ton of cyclists along their way. So there's this knowledge that the cars are familiar with how people ride and where people ride, that they can find that. They can go on Strava and see this really active heat map and realize like, oh, you could bike down this one street and go to the beach. Maybe I'll try that. There's a lot of social rides, like I mentioned, and then also our mapping systems, all the common ones you use anywhere you are, have very good routing here in New York. So the odds of you putting in somewhere, Times Square, if I put Times Square into my phone right now, I will get an actually bikeable bike route. So if I go out and try that once, I'm not going to get scared off. I'm not going to be routed onto a highway. And I just saw something in the chat. I will ignore that for now. I'll come back to it in a minute. And then body knowledge. We can't denote or we can't ignore the fact that cycling is a relatively physically demanding thing. It is a form of exercise. It is a form of like pushing yourself. Here in New York, we're fortunate to have a pretty well-versed population in that it's a very walking based city. A lot of people are pretty mobile. I actually originally or worked for a time, I have a master's in physical education that came from a program here that the city was working to improve the quality of physical education in the school systems. There's a lot of recreational programming for adults, for free lap swimming, for free classes or cheap classes in parks or rec centers. So we have a lot of infrastructure built here for people to like have enough body awareness to be confident to do something like cycling. There's bicycle knowledge, which again, because of this strong community, you have so many bike shops here. The bike shop employees are pretty versed in how to speak to a new cyclist, how to identify a more legacy long-term cyclist. How do we get people who are just like walk in, I have a city bike, I don't know how to buy a bike. How do we work with them? There's a lot of classes as well. There's organizations like Bike New York that do programming. There's workshops. I've taught workshops through some of these organizations. And then again, when you have a strong community, you go to one event, you start talking to a person, they can so easily put you in contact with someone there, with someone at a shop, with me as a fitter, whoever this person needs, like the pathways are there. We're very networked here. Physical skills and competence. One thing that's really interesting to me, my whole model of fitting, I work with the whole range. I work with everyone from like racers down to very casual people, but a lot of my clients are commuters. And if you think about it, a commuter as a cyclist is actually a very, like someone mentioned earlier, it's a very high level of commitment to the discipline, to the sport, to being on a bike. 10 hours a week, something like that on a bike is going to put you at a pretty high skill level as compared to like even 3 hours a week of specific training for something like a triathlon. So we have a really high threshold here just because it is so safe, so commonplace to commute to work or to like go to a meet up with friends for dinner or your social event on a bike. There's learning to ride classes for adults. There's racing clinics. If you've been a commuter for a long time and you decide you want to get more serious, like I could probably list 5 or 8 clinics that have already happened this year if you want to go out and push yourself. There's a whole riding program every spring where you go from being, you get trained into being a better like 15-mile-per-hour rider, a better 18-mile-per-hour rider, a better 20-mile-per-hour rider, a gravel cyclist. So there's like this coherent, structured program for you to go from point A much further. And then there's mechanical skills and competence, which I honestly don't know at your bike shop spread around the country what you have, but I just know here we have bike co-ops and workshop slots where if you want to go do your own maintenance on your bike, you want to go build a bike, you can book some time or show up, and there's people who can supervise you and help you, but you get the chance to build that skill. There's also all of these classes that are beyond the flat fix. They're learning all about derailleurs. They're learning all about drivetrains. They're like building these pathways of learning. Again, in the community, there's so many home or shop mechanics so that it's hard or it's rare to be in a place where you can't be directed to someone who knows the thing you're looking for or can put you in touch. This has been something for me coming into cycling as an industry from fitness or this more like physical education background. Is so much of the knowledge in cycling is rather oral. It's passed kind of casually, informally from person to person. So again, this really strong community means I can ask around until I get a satisfactory answer. I don't necessarily have to go to Reddit or YouTube. And then there's also this really interesting culture of bike builds where, in my head for a long time, I had a perception of bike builds being like a nice custom rando bike or like something you do at a certain level. We have a really strong fixed gear community here that builds up for probably $400, $500, $600 of used parts. Will like build up really cool bikes that perfectly suit them, their needs, their aesthetic preferences. Same thing in gravel, same thing at any budget, which I think just creates a greater sense of autonomy and engagement and kind of like what we were talking about, the used market of all of these ways that we can make cycling something more than being sold a status symbol or being sold a performance metric or being sold like something like that. It's a way to really marry the bicycle into your identity. And then all of that, I feel really combines to create this sort of confidence and trust as a rider. And I always say like these riding literacies, most of us don't have everything on this wheel, but the more you have, the more comfortable you are walking into a bike shop and knowing how to get the service you need, knowing how to push back if they didn't quite solve your problem, knowing how to shop, knowing where to shop, knowing what saddle to buy, knowing if you need to get a bike fit, if a used bike is going to suit you, are you looking for a spec that is only coming out on a new model? And also this ability to like engage and feel a part of your community, to develop as a cyclist, regardless of where you're coming from and regardless of where you're going. So yeah, that's that. And if we have time for like 30 more seconds, I'd like to show a little post of a story of one of my, and I don't know if you can see can you see the Instagram screen, or are you still seeing my slides?
No, it's an Instagram post.
Okay. Gotcha. So this is just a client, someone who came to me via referral back in fall of last year, and like October, no, maybe even November of last year. And they came to me on this bike that was this large, it's clearly used, kind of unmatching fork bike. They had come from folding bikes. They were enthusiastic, young, but their bike really didn't fit them. And then over the course, and they're also small, they're under 5'5", which, as we know, is an area where we don't really make a lot of bikes to serve. So I see that as a huge growth area, especially for involving women in our sport. But they came to me and we fit the bike as best as we could. And we ended up putting them on, or giving them specs to go buy another bike. And then they went and bought even a third bike. All of this is within the space of like 9 months. And now I don't have pictures of it, but now they're like racing for teams out here and podiuming, taking first place. So to me, that's an example of someone who, it's not about their skills, it's not about their capacity, it's about if they have a desire, how can we create the pathway? How can we allow them to buy 2 new bikes in a year? They've probably spent $10,000 minimum on bikes because someone in the community helped them see the way that they could become the cyclist they wanted to be. So I really see that as the growth.
And thank you for that. I love the overview that you provided, the image and putting it in the wheel there, and really talking about how education can be such an important tool in growing ridership. So thank you for your time, for your presentation and your thoughts. For attendees, the contact information of AM's Bike Fit Studio and website has been placed in the chat, along with a copy of her presentation. We do have 2 other speakers on this topic too, so I want to welcome warmly Mark Cruz from Whiz Wheels, which is TerraTrike. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Heather. Appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully that's coming through.
Perfect. Yep.
Great. So yeah, Mark Cruz, I'm with Whiz Wheels, parent company of TerraTrike and Greenspeed. We are recumbent trike manufacturers. And so I just want to talk a little bit about inclusivity. Not trying to, I'm going to try not to beat the drum of recumbent trike specifically, but there's a huge demographic out there that we don't generally talk about, that we're face to face with on a daily basis. So first I want to just define inclusivity, and it's making an underserved group empowered and more comfortable with becoming a part of something. And this is basically what AM was talking about as well, is wrapping your arms around various groups. Maybe they're cyclists, maybe they're not. Recumbent trike specifically, I think we all have a notion that comes to mind when we first hear that, if we're not super experienced with it. And it tends to be, this is someone that's way too old to ride on a 2-wheel bike. Most likely you think that they have a disability. And that's really where things get pigeonholed into. And then we decide that's not for our shop. Or that's a whole nother segment that's scary. I don't know how to deal with it. But I want to bring up another definition real quick: disability. This is from the CDC. Any condition of the body or mind that makes it more difficult for the person with the condition to do certain activities and interact with the world around them. That's pretty broad when you talk about disability. So how many people does that wrap around? CDC also states that there are 12% of Americans that have difficulty walking or climbing stairs. That's pretty significant. We talk about going from 2% to 5%. Well, there's 12% of people that may not even consider cycling as an option for them. If you have a neighbor, let's say, that has a bad back, are they a cyclist? Do you consider them disabled? Not necessarily. So the point is, we have to reach out and get in front of those people and show them that you don't have to be a cyclist if that's scary, if the physical effort or the discomfort of it is scary. But cycling is an option if we offer them the education, as AM keeps stating too, the education and the means to go do it. And that's what I kind of wanted to hit on here is for the shops, you have to become this conduit. You have to be the means for them to get out. And I kind of break it down into three pieces. It's really the education, it's the providing resources and providing the opportunity. And this is that spoon feeding. I've got 12 years of experience in specialty outdoor retail. And I think as a cycling industry, we could stand to look outside of our own walls a little bit more to see what opportunities, what other industries are doing that are successful. And I've got 12 years in the cycling industry. I've done this process. I've seen this process being used. I've done it with kayaking, backpacking, cycling. Even we're here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the flat Midwest. And I had an outdoor store for a while. I created an ice climbing community in the Midwest. This works, this process. So really, first of all, it's in-store clinics. This is so simple to do. You have a knowledge base, whether it's yourself, your mechanics, your staff, that you can draw people in and teach them something. Make it very approachable. Start with the baby steps. You've got new and curious riders or your neighbor with a bad back. Hey, do you want to get healthy? Let us show you how to do this and let's demystify it. But this really does a couple things. It draws that customer in and endears them to you. If you ever had a mentor or someone teach you something, you really look up to that person and you respect them and you want to help them out too, or give them your money if you're going to buy something from them. It creates appreciation for what your shop provides. So if you're going to do some sort of mechanical clinics or whatever, I've seen this where people say, "Oh, that's great. I know the basis. I don't want to do that. This shop knows how to do that." And it helps them create that appreciation and that value in what you're providing. And then these clinics are valuable to people. Um, I used to do them for free, and then we started actually putting a value of $5 to $10 on them, and we would get more people now because it wasn't just some piddly free thing, but it was so achievable and affordable. They would come in and throw $5 at it, and then we just give that back to them in store credit. I was going to give it free anyway, but now they've got a reason to shop. They've got a reason to buy something. So that's kind of the first step in drawing these customers in. Next is what I call the dress rehearsal. This is that next step beyond the clinic where they get their hands dirty. We've got to make sure it's safe for them. They're not going to fail. It's really hard for them to fail at it. And so like the clinic, I liken that to teaching the kid how to ride, but having the training wheels on. Now we're going to take the training wheels off, but we're going to run beside that child and hold the seat for them. That's what this next step is. Still charge for it. Make sure you're creating a value with it. Maybe an example of this is you create a short little ride, but in the middle of the ride, you have a staged flat tire. Okay, everybody, remember in the first in-store clinic, we learned how to do this. It's not scary. Now we're out in the real world. It might rain on us. It might whatever. And we're going to actually change this tube out now. We're going to fix this tube, whatever it is. So it's that hands-on empowerment in this stage. And again, making it safe, creating those opportunities for them to have help if they need it. And then the third piece of this is that stretch goal. This is where we would take people out on something that when they first started with the in-store clinic, they didn't think they could do. I can't go ice climbing. Sure you can. Let's go do it. Let's walk through this. I can't go ride 10 miles. What if I get a flat tire? What if this happens? What if, who knows what? Maybe there's road construction. How do we detour around this? It's that real live event that makes it attainable for them. And if you're there to watch them, so as you're teaching that kid to ride a bike, you're watching now at the end of the driveway. They fall, you're there to pick them up, but they're on their own. You're going to help them out though. Again, this is something you still charge for. Make it slightly uncomfortable. It's that challenge. It's that little bit of push, but don't make it scary. But be their coach. And then after all of this kind of educational process is done, is you've got to be that resource still. You've got to provide the means for them to join a group, to get active, to keep progressing in it. That is super important. You become that educator. You taught them, you introduced them, you empowered them, and now you're the resource. hey, I want to start doing this. I want to race. I want to do whatever it is. So how do you reach this customer? You're probably already doing a lot of it. You just aren't speaking to them necessarily. Sometimes it's the social media, it's your website. Sometimes it's just changing demographics. If you're advertising, it's very simple to do. Everybody is exposed to a lot of different marketing now, that just by tweaking that message can draw them in. And then it's just word of mouth from your current customers. It's maybe putting that recumbent trike in your store and saying, hey, we have this. So that cyclist, you want to go ride with your dad? That cyclist, you want to go ride with your spouse that isn't into it? This might be a means to get them introduced. A great little example is one of our great shops out west started taking their trikes, and actually the staff would go ride in a social group ride that was established in their city. And creating that presence got those group ride leaders to go, oh, hey, maybe here's someone we need to start accommodating. They started talking with these shop employees of how do we accommodate this better? Instead of going and cutting this curb, we're going to go down the sidewalk transition or whatever. And now they have recumbent riders as a regular part of this. There's local rehab facilities if you want to go into the deeper disability area, VAs. There's a lot of charities out there that are based around some sort of chronic disease that can use recumbent trikes or other means, or just need exercise in general. But the biggest piece here is to set the tone. You have the ability to set the tone with your staff and in your store. If you don't set that broad enough, this is just something that people don't want to deal with. They don't want to mess with that customer. They don't want to wrap their arms around it. They want to talk about the latest derailleur technology. So you've got to set that tone, educate your staff about this customer. And if it does require a different product than what they're used to, focus on educating them and then curate those products. You don't have to go crazy. Just start simply so you have an answer for those customers when you do grab their attention, when you get them excited about running or riding. So that's what I have for you there.
Mark, thank you so much. And I saw a lot of great comments just about retailers. And I've heard a lot of great comments of retailers who are working with TerraTrike and using recumbents to grow their customer base and reach diverse riders and really, have found great success there. So thank you for your insights and sharing. We do have one more speaker on this topic. I'm going to turn it over to Brandon Morphew from Miso Partners. Brandon, thanks for being here. Brandon, we can see your screen, but yep, there you go. Perfect.
Yep. Having my own microphone issues as well. So I'm Brandon Morphew. Thank you, Heather, and panelists. I have a marketing agency. We focus on bike. I've been in bicycle retailer. I started in my 20s. I worked for manufacturers. I worked as an independent rep. I've been a co-chair of our local bike committee here for a decade. When people think about marketing, they often think ads, offers, SEO, but the best growth lever that you have can be those riders that are already outside your door. So inclusivity, and I do want to mention, authenticity is super important here. Make sure that you're aligned with your strategic objectives. You don't want to partner with a group that doesn't make sense for your shop. But inclusivity really is more than just a value or checkbox. It's a way to acquire new customers. And I'll walk through some specific examples. Disabled cyclists, we just heard on that. And I think inclusive design unlocks these new audience segments. So this isn't just a social issue. It's a customer base that's been ignored. So if you think about, actually, Heather, you had a great email this week about walking into a bike shop and no one saying hi to you. What's the sales process look like in your shop? Are you creating an environment that makes disabled cyclists feel welcome or feel left out? And accessibility in general is a huge market opportunity. These are untapped markets. There's lots of community-driven opportunities. This happens to be an example from DC. But these groups are lead generators. So these are programs that they're already opted into cycling. They're potentially future customers. They have trust, they have attention, they have a peer network built in. They're aligned audiences, so your ideal customers are likely already gathered in these groups. There's a very low cost of acquisition when you think about these communities. So they have high trust, and they're ready to be converted to your customers. And demos. So we just heard about demos. This is an example from Vermont. Demos, education, it reduces friction. So it lowers the barrier to entry, especially for new and non-traditional riders. Demos function like product trials in tech. So they build trust, education, basic skills, clinics, repair classes. It builds confidence, converts to purchases. This is especially true of parents, adaptive riders that we just mentioned, and beginners. Education can help build comfort with them. And there's tons of content here. So one of the things that's consistent in all of these opportunities, all of these groups, is that there's a lot of really interesting and rich content, often tied to emotion, that helps you to build great moments and that also drives sales. This is an example from Boston. We have, I'm just based outside of the Boston area here. This is a government voucher, but there's often opportunities like this, both with the government as well as with nonprofit partnerships. We heard about the opioid opportunity. So there's opportunities you don't have to absorb the discounts to bring in new riders. These are limited time, they're inclusive opportunities, and create a sense of urgency. These are all marketing tools that promote influence. So these are the types of tools that get people to buy. So they're programs that are equity forward, and they have a practical margin. So if you think about, we accept e-bike vouchers as a message, that makes your store more discoverable in search, and it helps you as well on social. It's great content as well. And then, measuring the metrics that matter. This is an example from Atlanta. But if you want sustainable growth, you need to track more than just revenue. So this is about tracking participation, segmenting your audiences when they come in. So tagging new customers at the POS. This is indicators that signal real community building, not just one-time sales. There's a high retention and reach, which is super efficient from a marketing point of view. It's expensive to bring in new customers. There's an opportunity to segment your emails, your POS list by ride and type of event, and track who returns, who upgrades, so you can really understand where your marketing efforts are making an impact. And it's a way to measure new categories, not just asking, how many people came to your event or your activity, but who showed up and why did they stay? So that's it for me. Thank you, Heather.
I love the examples that you show in the presentation you put together. They're great reminders of what's happening out there and how people are making impact. And thanks again for referencing my email earlier this week. That was a opportunity that I was like, come on, please acknowledge me for sure. Fantastic discussion today. Let's just keep moving through to keep us on track. We do have one more topic today. I'm really fond of this topic. It poses the question, do cycling club partnerships create measurable impact for bike shops? Several of us know that local retailers will partner with their local cycling club, sometimes offering discounts, sometimes supporting events, but do this support, this collaboration on group rides, meeting space, discounts really help create a fan base of loyal customers that do shop with you, drives foot traffic to your store. So yeah, let's get into this. This could be a little bit of an interesting conversation. I could see people having both viewpoints. Yes, it does, and maybe no, it doesn't. So we have a couple speakers. Welcome, Michael Hernandez from Jackro. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Hello. Hi, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep.
I appreciate you giving the time. Yeah, I'm Michael Hernandez with Jack Crew Custom Apparel. I guess the first thing I want to just comment on, this is the first time I've engaged in a panel with NBDA. We're first-year members, and I just want to say thank you to what the NBDA has been doing. Have been an avid follower of all the communications. Have met folks at CABDA. Just really impressed with the work y'all are doing. And to follow up on that, I'm just in awe almost of the passion that drives this like retailer shop business. I just continue to be in awe with the commitment y'all do. So thanks. You're at the core of what our business is the same core that you have, and for us it is about revenue. I fall back on the need for us to just pay employees just like you do. Got to make our lease payments in a horrible environment. So what can we do? The topic posed is do cycling partnerships create measurable impact for bike shops? And the obvious answer for me is that it depends on what we do. So I'm going to just do a quick share here. I apologize. This will be very fast. So if you can see my screen now, hopefully you can. So the obvious answer depends on us. I just want to again thank you for what you've been doing. I'm going to scroll through quickly because I know we've been here for a long time, and I want to be efficient with my time for you. So it has to be the revenue and the foot traffic and the loyalty we get from our community members. It's essential, and that's just the position we've staked in because we're so involved with our community members ourselves. We are a direct to we have a relationships with hundreds of shops around. Well, yeah, getting on hundreds now of shops around the nation, but we are a direct-to-consumer business as well. So, which is one jersey at a time for folks. So we really are a volume-based business with extreme margin attention need, just like all of you. So I'm just gonna say how our shops have done it. This is from my own personal experience as well. I've been in this industry like all of you for way too long. On every aspect of it. But this is just unfortunately going to be a little bit insulting to some people's intelligences, and I apologize for that. But I'm just going to reinforce what has worked for us and for the shops that we work with. Identification. First and foremost, the groups that have turned revenue for us are the traditional cycling clubs, but we diversify. We go into the social and writing and training groups in a lot of different disciplines, beyond just the cycling, but into the multi-sport areas. Collegiate teams, as well as NICA youth or youth leagues, are very important for us and has been a huge source of growth for us. Coaching businesses, local coaches in your region, and local businesses and corporations and fitness groups that are in your area that you can tap into and build relationships with. How do you find them? For us, we have, we've still seen one of the largest hurdles for shops is one of the most basic, which is having an unfortunate, or I should say, just the investments needed for this dang need for the internet. We all know how frustrating it could be and how necessary it is. But your local customer base, as we all know, they're going to search for a bike shop online. That's how they're going to do it, right? They're going to go to your social media page to see what you're doing. If you can include stories and images that are authentic, which has been stated here before, but shows the work that you're doing, that's going to build trust. That's going to get you the most important part, which is that person just entering your store. And then there's the magic, of course, that we all have to do when to keep our customers. Business images for Google Maps searches or any of the map engine searches, those have to have vibrant, warm, inclusive, engaging images. It is a necessary requirement nowadays to get new folks to want to participate in your shop, want to become a part of your community. So it's just worked for folks that we work with. And then your business website, your actual business website, unfortunately, it does, like it's worth the investment to have current imagery and messaging. It's just been successful, and I know you all know this already, but I'm just stating what has been worked for us. This is the feedback we get consistently from the shops that we network with, which goes to that next word, networking. Networking. It's what each of the speakers has been touching on in such great creative ways. All we can do is just emphasize that it's true, that it really does work, and you all know it. And I apologize for how much work it is, but it's the work we have to do. What we see as most successful actions by our shops is when they're using their social media to actually build networks and actually communicate with other groups. You can meet groups where they are. They're going to be organizing information on the internet, and then they're going to be activating in person. So the second part of this is you've got to meet groups where they are. That's what we try to do at Jackro as well, and we try to do it with our shops. And that means attending activities, organized activities, just as what has been stated in here many times over. The areas of active investment from shops, we all know what they are. It's the labor. One thing that we see that shops a lot of times don't do enough with their cycling club associations or their club partnerships is they actually don't engage their local brand reps to be the salespeople for them and to host activities, because those local reps are very good at what they do, as you all know. And if you can find your preferred rep and you feel confident that they're going to be a great partner for you for a group activity, schedule those things, get them on your calendars, and make sure you're promoting those to your clubs. You have to let your clubs know about these things. That's one of the hardest things that that we oftentimes have, is we're in our day-to-day grind to process the widgets and to make all the T's crossed and I's dotted. We forget all the investment activities that have to run in the background. And part of that is making sure that you're communicating with these groups. Make sure you're building that loyalty and engagement by, like has been said many times, or in a couple of different presentations today, by activating those on-site engagement activities. Is it going to be a bike fit session? Is it going to be a bike training session? Is it going to be a group practice? Fill in the blank for what you would like to do. But unfortunately, what all that we can really emphasize is that it pays off. We have case study after case study of our customers working with local groups, because the reason we know this is because we particularly partner with our shops to work to engage them with their clubs through clothing, because we have a different business model, and I don't want to get into that. But if anyone is ever interested in learning about how we work with shops to give them revenue sharing opportunities, please just let us know and contact us. The contact information is up there on the slide. Betty at jackrousa.com. She's our national reseller manager, and she's amazing. She is a huge resource for you. So if you ever want to learn more about what we do for our customers, for our retailers, please let me know. And that's when I get into this passive revenue option. It's just an example from what our business does. And if you ever want to learn more about it, we can, but I don't really want to go into a specific pitch about this. The only thing that I want to leave off with is that since we are a direct to consumer business, we really work to try to find those individual stories and those individual ambassadors who will do the grunt work for us in specific regions. And so I guess that's my last pitch, is to invest in the staff or create that ambassador, in parentheses S, create those ambassadors who are going to be the people who will engage for you. It's a lot of trust you've got to build in, and you've got to still monitor it. You've got to be engaged with your folks who are doing the engagement, or else you lose touch and you make it messaging that you don't want. But if you do it right and you invest in those energies, you're already a central hub of the community. You're already kind of the heart and soul of the communities beginning. So so thank you for any work you can do to increase that ridership. It benefits our company as well, and so we appreciate everything you do. And I'll leave it at that and not take any more of your time. And I really appreciate you letting me speak.
Michael, thank you for sharing. I know you do work with so many retailers to help them offer custom clothing, either promoting their store or promoting their local club with their store, and it's made a direct impact. So appreciate you sharing what you're seeing and what you see retailers doing. So fantastic presentation. Thrilled to welcome Courtney Den from Ron's Bike Shop. She was with us at the Retailer Summit Central, and she has some thoughts on, do cycling club partnerships really create measurable impact for bike shops? Courtney, thanks for being here.
I'll keep this short too because I'm a little late. I was speaking to the Rotary just a few minutes ago in town and hoping not to get a speeding ticket on my way back to the bike shop. So I'm glad we live in a small town and it's just a 5-minute commute across town. So I was going to share my screen, but I can talk exactly what I wanted to talk about. Sorry if there's any background noise. I'm here at the shop today. So being in the bike industry and also being the treasurer currently on our Palace City Peddler Bike Club, I will tell you firsthand, I don't need to show big long statistics and bore everyone today, but those partnerships that I'm sure everyone has talked about truly do work. I like to say keep it simple, keep it easy, and keep it easy to work with the club. Things don't have to be complicated. Things don't need to be huge events. I like to say it's as easy as sharing one another's social media posts and just simply tagging in, letting your local customers know that you support the bike club that supports your community. Bike clubs are doing so many things behind the scenes that we as retailers often don't have time to do, like building infrastructure, building new trails in your systems, working in the schools, especially those communities that are in bigger those shops that are in bigger communities. I know it's often hard to get your employees and staff in there. I can always speak from a perspective it's a little easier because my husband works at the shop and I go out into the school to do those things. So support the clubs that support you. That will always be my biggest takeaway, is they're doing things we as shop owners don't necessarily have the time to. So really that community partnership of the shop, your customers knowing that those shops support the bike club that's supporting the entire community are very important. We just do very simple things in our community. Like I said, they don't have to be complicated. We always say take the opportunity to seg a ride. If they're hosting a ride, our community hosts a ride where we get about 350 to 400 riders into our community every August. We call it the annual Tour de Corn. We support that by being a free seg support for them. Those riders of those events turn into your customers, especially if you're a shop where your market is a little bit more expanded and your territory is a little bigger like it is for us. We're drawing customers from hours away because they don't have easy access to a bike shop. Customers seeing bike shops at those events, I think, like I said, creates the camaraderie among customers and riders that there's a partnership that they necessarily don't think about. I always say take the opportunity to create a group ride with your bike club. Our bike club actually used to host quite a few group rides, and unfortunately we're seeing a trend that those members are getting older, so we've tried to take over a few in our community. But those group rides create customers. Those group rides create lifelong customers. They create family generations of customers, which we think as a third generation shop are extremely important. And really just cross promote. Like I said, that's the most simple takeaway for me working with our bike club and being involved on both sides, is if we support the bike club supports us. Be a resource to your local clubs. Give them the opportunity for you to be that mediator, I'll say, between vendors. If they're looking to order swag, how can you help them get chain lube or things at a cheaper price? Work with your vendors. I'm actually working with a few of ours right now for our Tour de Corn, and the vendors have been so great to say, yes, we want to help promote those local bike clubs too. So it's a revenue aspect, not only to retail shops, but as bigger vendors are saying to them as well. So I don't have a lot. I think it's super important. Your clubs really drive your community and they do things we can't do. So we have to support each other.
Courtney, thank you so much for sharing. I love the just cross promote, do those simple things to support. And I'm glad you did make it back in time with no speeding tickets. So thank you for that. Group, we have one more speaker on this topic and then we are going to adjourn for today. So just stay with us for like 5 more minutes, if you will. Our final speaker is Brandon Morfell from Miso Partners, who will touch base on this topic as well. Brandon, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree everything that was said, so I'll try to move through quickly. I'm a resounding yes, and we're seeing it from our clients. The partnerships definitely work. Club partnerships work. There's a couple of things. You need to find the right partners, and really, like, this is an opportunity where you can leverage an outside party. So often the challenge is getting this all done yourself in-house. These are other groups that have organizations that you can partner with. The other is accountability. So you really need to hold each other accountable. So what are the commitments you're making? And then is it aligned with your strategy? So is this, a triathlon club isn't right for a BMX shop. So keep in mind that you're working with the right partners. This is arguably the largest ROI channel that a lot of shops ignore. It is a funnel for new clients. It's a funnel for new customers. And these rides, they're not just rides, they're events. They're exciting. They're opportunities to brand your shop. So keep in mind that there's a lot of opportunity here. I think this is a NBDA quote, so I'll go through this quick, but weekly and monthly rides are lead generation events. You get a qualified audience. There's built-in social proof. So one of the things that people buy, one of the reasons that people buy is social proof. That, my friends like it, the people that I admire like it, I'm going to like it too. And then it's exposure to products. So you're riding, you look across the group, and there's someone with some cool gadgets on their bike. So these are all ways that people, and you don't have to spend money. So there's a lot of ways to negotiate club deals and to integrate. You can also spend money, but unlike ads, it's not, it's a lot more qualified, and you have that existing audience built in. Every ride is a moment for a conversion. So think in terms of touch points. So the pre-ride communications, the in-ride experience, what's happening, the post-ride hangout. These are all opportunities to brand your business. So you have an opportunity to encourage signups, loyalty programs, services, classes. Energy is high. People are more likely to make purchase decisions, impulse decisions when they have that high energy. And then give them next steps. So think about booking a fitting, joining a list, redeeming some points. This ROI, the ride ROI, is measurable. You just need to track it. So who's the new POS customers? Tag them to the rides. Do you have loyalty signups that you can get post-ride? Are they repeat visits? Are they referrals? Are they engaging with your content after the rides? Treat this like a campaign. Capture the data that's coming in on these rides and report on it. Really, your rides are your brand. So your ride strategy is your brand strategy. So don't think of it as separate from your brand. It's very much aligned. So the tone, the themes, the values, the partners you choose should all be aligned with your identity, and they should communicate that identity. And then, are you showing up the way you want to be remembered? So back to that sort of like, going into the shop and getting a hello. Are you connecting with your customers or your potential customers the way you want to be connected? Rides are a content machine. So it's a way to generate authentic content. Every ride generates stories, photos, tips. All of that can be repurposed on social, in your blogs, in your newsletter. They're great opportunities. And the reality is, like, people love seeing themselves in content. So you have an opportunity. It's an exciting moment. People will reshare. You can reach a broader audience. Give them that platform. Give them that opportunity. And then it's kind of a cultural flywheel. So you have your community. It's not just a tactic. It's really an ecosystem. So you've got traditions, rituals, shared language that deepens your brand bond. Riders become advocates. So they share your story. They help to build the community. And the longer they ride with you, the less likely they are to ride with anyone else. So you're building those loyal customers over time. And lastly, that's me. I really appreciate your time. These are, great strategies to bring their low acquisition costs, lifetime value increases. Every ride is, an opportunity to grow your business. So thank you. And I have some great resources. So if anyone wants, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to share some of our how to build a club, how to build a community resources. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon. What a great forum event today. We started out, as a reminder, with James Moore sharing the Recovery Ride program, what you can do in your community to create a similar program that supports bike access and support of your community. We also talked about expanding ridership. We explored that sub $1,000 MSRP and the used bike category. Robert from Maverick gave us a great presentation as bikes as a lifestyle. Peter Woolery sharing the data on used bikes and the NBDA resources we have provided to help grow those used bike sales and help you as a retailer do so in a way that's best for your business. We talked about building inclusive communities. AM shared a great flywheel that talked about the importance of education, and Mark from TerraTrike talked about the retailer being the resource and how we can welcome and expand our reach into more diverse riderships. Brandon from Misso Partners, again, touch base on demo events and how we can reach more customers through those. And finally, just exploring this, do cycling clubs, do supporting cycling clubs actually help our business? It was a resounding yes from all three speakers, with Courtney from Ron's Bike Shop really talking about, if you do support, keep it simple and cross promote. And then Brandon wrapping it up with like that cultural flywheel and how we can really use the content that we're creating from those partnerships. So some really great conversations, some great things to get us thinking about how we can do more to make sure that our communities are not choosing the bike just one day out of the year, but choosing that bicycle multiple days throughout the year, multiple days throughout the week, and really engaging with us on many levels through our retailers and through our industry abroad. So thank you. Thanks again to our panel members for volunteering their time today. It really does truly mean a lot to the NBDA, to the retailers who partake in the discussion and watch this on YouTube or listen through our Bicycle Retail Radio podcast. Our next event is set for Thursday, December 11th at 1 p.m. EST. And about 3 to 4 weeks prior, Megan Schmidt, our programs developer, will reach out to the community asking about topics that you'd like the panel to explore. So if you have something in mind, please do respond to her email. Thank you everything for all you do to advance cycling, the industry at large, and reach out to the NBDA if you have any ideas or if there's anything we can do to support you. I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you for your time.